Hello everyone, it's your boy Tessellating Hexagons, still on that grind reviewing all of the songs from yesterday's Eurovision Super Saturday, implying that it's the only one this year, and it really isn't, and I'm being worked to the bone and back again, but that is not the fault of Moldova, who was the third of the 4 songs yesterday to be chosen for Eurovision. You know what? You know how the system works, you don't need me to explain it to you every single time. Anyway, this year Moldova will be represented by Anna Odobescu, which is spelled with one N with some sources but 2 N's in other sources, so in the thing at the bottom of the screen I'll spell it with 2 N's, and a song called Stay, which is presented entirely in the English language, music and lyrics, also I've been told, by Georgios Kalpakidis, Thomas Rael, Jeppe Rael, and Maria Broberg. And I'm sensing a theme with those names, but I'm not going to say it out loud, so I would give more thoughts, but I mean, that's what I'm supposed to do in the next segment of the review, so let's get started on the next segment of the review. Not gonna lie, I kind of feel like I just can't say words properly at the moment, but nevertheless, especially after the last 2 years, I had no idea what Moldova was going to have up their sleeve for Eurovision. So I went in with no expectations and kind of came out the other side of the song feeling pretty much the same. I'd describe this song as being round or like spherical, maybe egg-shaped. It's an egg-shaped song. Yep, that's how you know it's me. This is an egg-shaped song. But like what I mean is, if someone threw this song at you and you had to catch it with just your fingernails, you wouldn't be able to. It's hard to get a good purchase on. Hopefully that makes at least something resembling sense. I know, I'm a little bit on the insane side. Anyway, having listened to it a couple of times for this review though, I guess you could kind of describe this one as being like a middle ground between Fight from 2007 and Wild Soul from 2014, but without the extremenesses that came with either one of those. Both of those songs, by the way, are great songs in their own rights, and this one is too, but it's just taking kind of a while for me to properly find something about its identity to properly latch onto, to sink my teeth into, to set it apart from making those kinds of comparisons, if you see what I'm saying here. Still, as ever, we'll begin with the positive side of things. I think the most evident thing to praise this song on can sort of be inferred from the other Moldovan entries that I just compared this one to. It has quite the impressive flair for the dramatic that comes across incredibly clearly, and that helps to sell the message and the story of the song. It makes it seem all the more sincere, it makes her performance seem that much more engage-with-able, if we interpret the music as being representative of her emotional state in her request that you should stay. Additionally, and sticking with that image, the whole instrumentation builds up really nicely over a steady rate over the course of the song. No 2 moments sound exactly alike, and yet it still all sounds like a cohesive whole when all is said and done, indicative of her increasing distress and potential panic or inner turmoil that she should even be saying stay in the first place. The emotions within the lyrics come through perfectly, and without being undermined by her missing a note, because let's face it, if she were to like fall out of tune at any point, that would damage the credibility of both the song and the overall narrative, so it is reassuring to see that there's really not much of a risk of that happening. She's a good live performer. She owns it live on stage with dark, serious and focused staging and camera work, and you can really see it in her eyes as clearly as you can hear it in her voice. Credit where it's due, she is a great actress, especially for a song like this. And now for my final point, here's something a little bit more variable than all of that, I suppose. There's that final minute of the song. It's probably going to divide audiences, and you can bet your bottom euro that I am going to talk about this a bit more in the next segment of this review as well. On the positive side of that final minute, it features the instrumentation sort of pulling back and sort of going quiet for a minute to allow you to focus on Anna's vocals, only to then build back up into one of those stomp, stomp, clap kind of segments. Kind of like what Suri had for the UK last year, or Australia for that matter, or Ogene for the Netherlands the year before that. It does stir up engagement and a feeling of community within the audience, and while it is a little bit on the basic side, a little bit it's been done before, it's no less effective now than it was back in the heyday of, say, Freddie Mercury, though I'm not saying this song is even remotely comparable to music by Queen, but still. Looking at things from the other side though, okay, let's jump right back into analysing that final minute. While I do think that there's engagement to be found from that stomp stomp clap part, it is a woefully tired cliche that kind of detracts from the performance a little bit, and the fact that it's immediately, mind you, followed by a victory key change sort of compounds that issue even further. The song was fine to continue as it was, but that final minute kind of kills the momentum and gravity of it a little bit. In a similar vein, I'll be the first to admit that the lyrics themselves are more than a little on the banal side. There are a lot of basic rhymes in there, and then there's the oh-so-infamous line, "Forever's here to stay, no matter what they say." Like, I can't really point out any specific issues with that line other than to just sit back and go, oh, come on, really? Like, it's a bit hard to take it seriously at that point. The song is meant to be a plea to someone who's leaving that maybe they shouldn't leave, they should work things out, but the presence of these cliches throughout only serve to remind me that this is, at the end of the day, just another work of fiction. There's no jeopardy here, there's no real person in mind. It doesn't matter if the person she's singing to stays or goes, because they weren't real to begin with. And that fictitiousness just makes the song that much less interesting. If I listen to it and hear nothing but a story that I know isn't real, presented through a load of old, tired memes that have been used 1,000 times before to greater effect in other songs, could I feasibly be blamed for tuning out after a while? Maybe that's a little bit of a harsh summary. I don't hate this song. It's just replete with a lot of little flaws, that's all. So let's put my brain through the spaghetti maker and see what numbers come out of the other side, because that's how spaghetti makers work apparently. In my personal opinion, I guess this song gets a 7 out of 10 from me. Yeah, it's pretty okay. I can live with it. I wouldn't skip past it on the Eurovision CD, and I won't use this song as a bathroom break during the show. Sure, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's far from offensively bad. It's just, there's not a massive amount that I have to say about it. Just, it'll do. I'm not a big fan of its key change, obviously, but I'm not incapable of looking past it while the song's being performed. I won't use that as my sole sticking point for justifying hating it or anything. It's just, it's a thing I don't like, but it doesn't ruin the whole song for me. As for the technical side, admittedly, I'm torn. I'm going to settle on a 6 out of 10, and I will feel really guilty for doing that, because, as I've said several times by now, the song as a whole isn't objectively bad, it's just kind of uninteresting. And at Eurovision, that's kind of a big deal. On a raw instrumental level, it's well composed, and on a raw vocal level, she sings brilliantly. But the completed package of the whole thing put together has all of these old-fashioned issues with it that cause me to feel a sense of disconnection from the performance, from the narrative, and a song like this would need to do much more than this to stay afloat in the context of the present day. Sure, this would totally fly and stand on its own 10 or 15 years ago, but nowadays, in 2019, it's kind of not enough. And that's a shame, really, because there is potential here. Now, to cap things off, how is Moldova doing in the bigger picture, as it were? Despite what you might expect, I would call this a lateral move, really. It's intriguing to see that despite their successes of the past 2 years with quirky stuff, Moldova has held on to the notion that they're not obliged to do something wacky every single year, and that they're still capable of producing straight-laced, serious stuff if they want to do so. So, by using the same national final format as always, they've produced another song that fits the same pattern that I commented on back before even Dorados was chosen last year. You can check the iCard of this video if you want to see more about that. Oh, and one last thought that won't really fit in anywhere else. Kinda random, but I liked the graphic design of the Moldovan selection this year. Good job there, TRM, you can be proud of that. But, is this song enough for Anna to bring Moldova to the final once again this year? I mean, based on previous patterns, I will admit I'm not especially optimistic, bearing in mind, you know, Lydia Izak didn't qualify, and Christina Scarlett didn't qualify, Eduard Romanuta, and then there's this. When Moldova tries songs that have a more serious tone comparatively, it tends to be extremely hit or miss as to whether they reach the final or not. And for all my objections with the stylistic choices of this song's composition, I fear that it will be drowned out by some of the more boisterous entries this year. True, they are in the same semi-final as Romania, and I suspect that their cultural similarities could lead to them getting some points out of genuine appreciation for the musical stylings, but I don't know if the rest of Europe will follow suit here. Not even the juries, for that matter. Like, yeah, they could praise her surprisingly good quality vocals, but in that same breath, they could criticise the composition and the use of tired cliches. That the song doesn't bring anything new to the table, so they might praise the delivery, but then take those points away again because of everything else. We'll have to see. And then there's you, lovely people. As ever, iCard, comments, let me know. How do you feel? Do you like this one? Are you willing to defend this one? Do you not like this one? Let's have a discussion. Do you feel neutral? Do you have no opinions at all? That is also a valid response. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see how things go for Moldova, because I'm glad to see that they're not being a one-trick pony with their quirky wackiness. They can still do serious stuff. So, to that end at least, I will say, you know, Anna, Team Moldova in general, I do sincerely wish you luck for when you hit the stage in Tel Aviv. We'll see how things go for you over in May. See you then.